Good afternoon, and welcome to the May 2017 meeting of the Department of Social Services Board. I'd like to call the meeting to order, and we would recognize that County Commissioner Mary Perkins Williams is not with us today because she is in Raleigh. But to start the meeting, let's observe a moment of silent prayer or meditation. Amen. According to our clerk to the board, there is no one signed up for public comment. So the next item on our agenda is to adopt or revise today's agenda.
I would like to see if it's possible to clarify next steps for the health ed training and for the future reference.
Okay, do you want to have them reconsider what we've already done, or just want Jan to give some next steps in her director's report?
I feel like it was left a little bit up in the air at the last meeting, and I would like for us to have a clarification as how we're proceeding and for future reference.
Do you want to address that in your comments?
I can do that.
Okay, so let's add that as an item on the director's report. Is there anything else we need to add to the agenda? Becky? No? Okay. Then all those in favor of adopting the agenda as revised, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. In your packet, you had the minutes from our April meeting. Any changes needed to those minutes? And if not, a motion to accept them as presented.
I did find one thing.
Okay.
And it's just a little number thing, but on page 3, on the back, it said that there would be, when we're talking about this new regional thing, that there would be 3 counties per region. I just caught this morning. I think it's 30 counties per region.
It's 30 regions per state, within the state.
Okay. So
And
then,
so there's no definite determination about how many counties per region. So it was 2 to 4, so I think we probably did say around 3 just
did.
because.
then it's my
Yeah.
misunderstanding,
So,
and
yeah.
I'm still
That's
glad I
okay.
asked the question.
But it's
That's
going to be
good.
30, their goal would be 30 regionals.
Regions.
Okay. Thank you.
So with that clarity, does that leave us able to adopt the minutes?
I move that we adopt the minutes.
I second.
Okay, the minutes have been moved and seconded. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
The next item is items for discussion, and we have Jan Elliott with her proposed work plan and Jan Elliott with her quarterly review.
Okay, the proposed work plan, that was first on the agenda, but since the review's up, we could do that since it's up on the screen, whichever you want to go. Okay.
They're both under there, so
Right.
do them in
Okay,
whatever order works.
the work plan, I have put together a draft work plan that everybody, I believe, has had a copy of. This meets or pretty much mirrors the PEP that the county staff have to do. There are several items in here that are required items. Ethical and professional practice, implementing the performance evaluation tool, supervisory practices and safety are some of the things that the PEP requires at a supervisory level. I have given you some draft weights for the specific activities, developing the strategic plan, developing the budget that addresses the needs of the county, assure the agency has qualified trained staff, ensure we're in compliance with state and federal standards, develop and implement internal and external communication plan, and then the two that I said are required by the county, the ethical and the performance evaluation tool. Then the factors are also things that are part of the county's PEP. I did not do any weighting there. I selected the factors of dependability, quality of work, customer service, judgment, communication, supervisory practices, and safety. Those certainly are open for discussion, can be removed, added to. I did not, like I say, put any weights there. I attempted to do what is meets, always exceeds, and far exceeds are always tougher to write out and figure out what those are. I think all of these will require some significant work, but are things that I need to be doing and probably at the level I need to be doing them at. So I'm certainly open to discussion. I just wanted to throw this out because it's a plan that we should negotiate together.
And for Jim and Coral, Becky's familiar with it because she was graded on one of these for years. The factors, again, total up to 100%, and right now, Jan has 7 of them out there, so it's up to us to sort of decide how we split those 7 across
Makes
the
sense.
100%.
Is there any place in here, it seems like when we were at the workshop meeting, it was suggested that we follow a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 rating system. Is that necessary with this?
The meets, exceeds, and far exceeds would be the rating system if we go with something like that. So you could give far exceeds a number, you could give the exceeds a number and the rates. The county looks at 5 being far exceeds and 3 being meets,
Makes sense.
and then anything below 3 would be a not meet, so 0, 1. So it would be 3, 4, and 5 for meets, exceeds, and far exceeds.
I just want to make it easy for,
Right. I agree.
And that would put us in compliance with the way the other
Everybody
department
does.
heads and everybody else. So 2, maybe they didn't quite get it. 1, 0, so it is on a 5-point scale.
Right,
As long as meets is considered a 3.
right.
Any thoughts on weighting the factors?
And I will say the factors are pretty much the language that are in the standard factors. It's not something that
Right.
it's my
So are
language.
the factors typically weighted pretty uniformly in terms of evaluation?
It can vary a little bit based on the job you're doing.
Makes sense?
So, you might have something that would be 5 or 10, and then some others that might be,
That makes sense.
20, because I would think customer service would be something that would be a very strong, or judgment or something like that would be a strong one.
Yeah, I think in my days, safety and supervisory practices were probably 5-pointers, and then the other 90% was spread among
Right.
the factors that Jan is listing here.
Is this something that, had you been working on something too, or?
Not, I mean, this was what we had decided we were gonna let Jan come up with to mirror our PEP reviews. So this is good.
And actually, you could pretty much do the weights on these 15 or 20, something like that, on all the ones that are left, other than those 2 that she mentioned were generally 5s.
You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Because in my mind, communication whether that is listening to the staff, communicating with the county, is sort of a bigger issue than that in your judgment, to me. Those might be sort of 15 percenters. And so that's,
And I'd throw in customer service there too.
so that's 45. Or maybe even put 20 on the three of those, because they are. That's 20, 40, 60. What are your thoughts on? 60. To go 20, 20, 20, 20, and then 10 and 10.
That makes sense.
Is that, I don't know that that gives us
The
enough.
first
though.
20 being,
Wait a minute, 20, 40, 60, 70, or maybe we should go dependability 15, quality 15, and then customer if we agree that customer service, judgment, and communication are, you know, the somewhat big three, then you're at 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 95, 100.
And that's why you do the math.
It comes easy to you,
It's
right?
been a long day, though. That would put dependability at 15%, quality of work at 15%, customer service at 20, judgment at 20, communication at 20, and then the last two at 5 each. And if you think quality or dependability takes on more weight, to me, because we are here to serve the public and we have such a volume of public, her judgment, and then communicating, keeping everybody up to date, to me, those are the three big rocks.
what did you give communication? What number were you giving that?
20. So dependability 15, quality 15, customer service, judgment, and communication 20, and then supervisory and safety 5 to equal the 100. Would be but I'm just one of the group, so.
I think communication, this is just based on my experience, I think communication should be a little heavier than the following two on the list.
Okay, so if you move communication, where do you, judgment or customer service, which one would you pull down a little bit? Jim?
So if we do 5 and 5, that's 90, and that leaves 5 left.
I mean, I'm okay with taking communication up to 25 and dropping dependability. To me, dependability is one of those things you have to put in place for a line staff. But if a department head doesn't know that they're expected to be here and expected to show up for a hurricane event and make the department head meetings and be at the county commissioners meetings, I mean,
I
that,
agree.
that's
I agree
inherent
with
with, to me, the role she
But
plays.
communication is so important to every facet in and out of the DSS role that I definitely think that should be a little bit heavier. And I think your thought process on the other is good.
So can you do the math now, Melanie?
10 on dependability, plus 15 on quality is 25, plus 20 on customer service is 45, plus 20 on judgment is 65, plus communications at 25 is 90.
Bingo.
And then the 2 5s again.
Got it.
I can get to 100, and don't need my fingers, but beyond that.
Now, what we can do, because obviously once you start weighting things, it makes it very complicated when you start trying to figure out a score. So y'all, the way I would assume you'd want to do it is you would do the evaluation, do the scoring, we could plug it into the county system and it would turn around and give us the numbers. Because it does the math for you once it's plugged in. So, that's what you want to do.
And while we're here, any change to the way Jan did her objectives, she's suggesting 20-20, 20-20, because those are somewhat big items that she needs to do. And then, you know, she's got a 10 and a 5 and a 5, which the Code of Ethics and the implementation of the PEP, that at 5% is typical to what you see on other department heads.
How do you feel about it? You're the expert on pepping.
I've done a lot of them, but I'm good with it. But again, I want you all to be happy with it too, because we're going to take everybody's input and to derive into the formula to finish her evaluation. And this is what she will do for July 1 forward. We will finish out this year on our old tool. And the way the county system works is if there were a cataclysmic event, another hurricane, where the agency was derailed for a month, which caused her not to be able to meet a goal, she has the opportunity to come back and, you know, put that in as an extenuating item. We hope we don't have to do that.
Let's
in
don't do
the
that
fall
right
of-
now.
Or summer and fall of 17, but you know, you know, say if you had something where you were supposed to get so much of a project done by December 1, a late season hurricane can derail that, and we always took that into account.
So just so I'm clear, so the process with this, so we put weights to it, so the next step will be for Jan?
It becomes her plan for the year.
Correct.
We review her at the first of the calendar year, sort of at the 6-month mark, to see how she's doing on meeting all of her goals.
Okay.
And then she's got the spring to finish, and then we review her this time next year to give her the number that then the county uses in their formulas when if they're fortunate enough to have merit money.
So the midpoint review, that's kind of that is a formal process where we sit down and go through that and feedback in terms of where we are with the plan. Okay.
And obviously, you all are paying attention to what I'm doing, but I have a lot of responsibility for providing you with information
Okay.
too.
Yeah, staff sort of gives you a feedback on where they are, so that helps us then assign the numbers.
Communication. Yep.
Okay.
So if we're okay, how about is there a motion to put this into place so that Jan can then get it into the framework of a PEP?
I move that we accept this draft work plan and carry on with implementing it.
And the associated weights that we,
They sound good, and I motion that we accept those.
And I'll second that.
okay, so all those in favor of this being Jan's work plan for 17-18, let it be known by saying aye.
Ah,
Okay, now you do the quarterly review.
Okay. Again, y'all should have gotten that in your packet. We are making progress in some places. We're having little glitches here and there in others, but, so let's walk through it. We have the slides on the screen, and I believe you may have a copy of the slides at your place. The first one is Economic Services Division, that 97% of our food stamp intakes and redeterminations are completed on time. The standard is 97%. The third quarter, we were at 95.9%, so dropped a tad from the prior quarter. We also had fewer intakes and redeterminations that were done during that period. We are still working towards getting to 97%. We are staying at very close to 97% in both, but we are not there yet. The SNAP collaborative that we're working on is trying a lot of things that hopefully will help us make that last consistent, concerted effort across. Because some days we've been at 100%, some weeks, and other weeks we have not been. So we are continuing to work on that, but are making significant progress.
So this is like a 12-week average?
Yes,
Is that
ma'am.
right? So,
It's the number that we actually did as far as applications and reviews, and then it's what percentage of those were done on time. So, and some of those have to be done within basically the same day they come in. The expedited, those emergency situations, we have to make an immediate decision on. So if those aren't, they're measured separately, so if those aren't done timely, then they can pull us down. So that's where some of that stands. Our accuracy level, we are auditing 100% on our new workers and a small percentage on our experienced workers. And as you can see, we are right around 95% still for our accuracy level. So again, a little room for improvement, but we are not doing terribly bad. The goal would be 97%. Our economic, and anytime you got a question, stop me, okay? Our,
I have a question.
yes, ma'am.
Now, these people that are doing the accuracy now, have we got workers in place now that have got more experience under their belt, that maybe that this next quarter we'll see an improvement, or are we still continuing to hire new people?
We have a lot of new folks in place, and we are continuing to hire some people. We are fortunate that we're hiring a few folks that already have experience, so that helps us every time we can do that. And I'm thinking we're going to continue to see improvement. The monitoring process, we've only been at this about a year, and so we're continuing to fine tool, the process that we're using with folks. And the state is starting to look at things also a little differently. So there's a lot going on. But yeah, the quality will improve as our staff get more and more experienced.
Yeah, and I'm hoping we could just keep them so we don't have to keep going through this cycle.
Right, right. We're getting there. We're getting there. We had a lot of retirements. In fact, we just had another retirement. Connie retired, after 20-some years with us as a supervisor. So folks do retire.
Big shoes to fill.
Yes, they are. Okay, when you move to the Medicaid intakes, and let me tell you all, we do not have a report this month for our timeliness because the state has pulled the report. They say it's not accurate. They pulled last month's report back also. But based on our own information and what we are seeing as we look at the systems out there, we are at 94% timeliness on our Medicaid intakes for the 3-month quarter. So that is, and we actually did more intakes than the prior quarter. So we're making good progress there. 97% of our Medicaid redeterminations need to be completed on time, and we are definitely knocking at that door and have been knocking at that door. We're at 96.8%.
Can't much get much
but we
closer.
hadn't quite got over there. So hopefully we will get there again. We have a lot of new folks. It's a lot of training in there going on. When you look at our accuracy level, and that is a big issue for everybody in the state as far as Medicaid is concerned, of the cases that we're reviewing, we're finding that we're at 95% accuracy. So we want to be higher. There's always going to be a few cases that we're going to make mistakes on, and our goal would be 97%. Actually, our goal would be 100%, but 97% we feel is a reasonable goal. When you move to our paperless records, we would be at 100% on this, except we're still waiting on the state to approve our electronic records policy before we can start getting rid of some of the, doing some of the destruction that because we're holding. So we're holding some paper records right now that hopefully we can destroy once the state gives us that approval. But that has moved forward. It's making it a whole lot easier, isn't it, Brian, for when the state comes in to review stuff, they can just go to a computer and sit and do that. It's going to be interesting with the county audit this year when they come in, because most of our records will be on the computer, and that may make a difference in how they look at things too. Our Economic Support Services Division wait time, folks who are coming in, we're staying right at that 28-minute time for folks to be seen. Now, granted, if we have a lot of folks coming in for crisis services, that will slow things down a little bit, but the economic services portion of it, folks are not waiting more than 28 minutes, and our goal is at least 30, so, or no more than 30.
It seems like there was a note in what I was looking at, I copied out here that
There is.
that was figured according to one department, but maybe you can help me. Was this figured across the board, or was there one segment that was left out?
Right.
And that segment had to wait like 67 minutes?
Right. The situation you're talking about is that the 28 minutes is for economic services. That would be for Medicaid and food stamps, that kind of thing. During the times when crisis has a lot of folks come in, that the average wait time for emergency services clients during that winter quarter was 67 minutes. And that is, we have 5 staff, and some days 60 or 70 people can come in, correct, Michelle, that need to be seen, and that determination made when they come in the door. And you kiss 5 people, it's going to take a while for them to do that.
And there's no way to really improve that, is there? Because
Well, trying to staff up for that would be very difficult because it comes in waves. And so every time we get a new allocation and that word gets out, then we'll have a large number of people come in. We also had a vacancy during some of this period of time, and the supervisor retired, so we were getting a new supervisor in. So there was some turnover in that unit at that period of time. So there might be some improvement, but I'm not thinking it's going to be a significant amount, just because of how things staff, because you've still got people coming in for all the other programs too, and I can't shift people temporarily.
Don't you have other people like retirees that come back in and help during the
They do the energy, the
crisis
LEAP
and
program. They don't do crisis, but they do the energy program. Now, what I will say is this year, because we had crisis and LEAP or energy in the same building, if one of them was slow and the other wasn't, they helped each other. So there was some of that back and forth going on, but there were some times that both were so busy they couldn't help.
well, really, when you think about it, in an emergency situation, that amount of wait time is really not unreasonable.
No.
When you think about the crisis.
No, it's not. And we have to make that decision as to whether they're going to receive or not within 24 hours, 48 hours. So we do assist them very quickly when they come in the door to try and get that, that light bill paid or whatever might need to be done, so that they won't have a cutoff. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so when you come over to child support, and Michelle is here, any questions you have, we will direct at her. The child support cases, we need to be at 75% requiring enforcement. They're enforced on time, and we're at 82%. Her staff work really hard. And we have to, talk to about the court system and them finding time to hear us and all those things, because there's a lot of folks involved with that. But our staff do a great job. Also, you've got 90% of our cases in child support have to be closed at a certain point in time, and we are doing really well there at 98.6%. These are
98%.
These are all federal, 98.6%, yeah. These are all federal standards that we have to meet, and so, and we are measured on those, and incentives are provided to the county based on how well we do this, not to mention it's obviously important for the children we're serving. Child support orders must be obtained in 86% of the child support cases. We currently have 9,202 cases under order at 87.3%. And our child support goal for the year, I set my own goal, but the state set their goal at $14.8 million. and we're at 76.1%, and we've still got the April payments coming in from taxes, so we should be in good shape from that standpoint. So anybody got any questions about child support? If not, I will then move on to child daycare. We have used 78% of our allocation. We certainly want to use all of our allocation, and we certainly, you know, our goal would be not to exceed our allocation. This year has been quite a challenge for us. And so we are slightly overspending because we've spent 78% and should be at 75%. The families, the other thing we've got going on in childcare is our implementation in NC Fast. And we've got here that we're 90% through the third month, the third quarter. We've had another month of keying since this ended, and we are basically at 100%. All our cases are keyed into NC Fast. The downside of that, unfortunately, is that NC Fast has postponed implementation to August, which means that our staff will have to keep up with each case in 3 different systems and keep them current in 3 different systems until such time as this gets implemented. So that's going to be the trick for us for a while. But they did a wonderful job in getting all that keyed in. We brought in a few temporary folks, but the staff did a great job in getting it done. If you look at our Child and Adult Services Division, you can see that our goal of providing disabled adults with protection from abuse, neglect, and exploitation, you can see that we served 93 folks through an APS report and intervention. 19 of those folks received APS services with the adult's consent, and 4 individuals received, we had to go with a court order to get the services to them. So,
What happened between the 20 and the 19? I was thinking it would just increase.
well, no, I mean, it can fluctuate each month for how many reports you receive and whether those adults choose to accept the services or not.
But those are not cumulative numbers.
No, they're not
You-
cumulative.
I
This
was
is,
kinda
no,
thinking.
they're not, no. No, we're at, now, when we do budgets and those kinds of things, you will see totals, but this is just in one specific month.
So for the first 9 months of the year, you served 270 people,
Right.
roughly.
Right, whatever that math would be, yes. Again, she's
Yeah,
the
right, but I
mathematician,
mean,
not me.
And you've put,
58 of them
by
have,
adult consent, 60 people have been served and 10 by court order sort of thing.
yeah,
Okay.
so, when you look at, and that, yeah, so that's where that is. Objective 15 was taken care of, during the second quarter, so that one's no longer being reported on. Number 17 is provide disabled adults with assistance in decision-making to prevent future episodes of abuse, neglect, and exploitation. As you can see, our guardianship caseload is continuing to expand. When I got here 3 years ago, it was right around 80 or so, a little less than 80 cases. We're now at 107. New orders established. You can see that 6 orders were established in this quarter. We try very hard to find other entities to take on these cases. Only 34% were able to be given to other folks. And at this point, we've not been able to modify, restore, whatever, any of the guardians to being able to care for themselves now. So that continues to grow. Moving on to trying to make sure that our adults are living in safe, stable, and least restrictive environments. We are using 81% of our CAP slots, which is a program that allows folks to come in and help that family. It's paid for through the Community Alternatives Program or Medicaid, and we're using the nursing home rate to determine how much money we could utilize to help pay for the services these folks need. We've had some the numbers are not growing, and we've had some health issues and things in that unit, and our goal would be to definitely utilize 100% of the slots. The in-home aid and respite program, that's a little bit of an on-demand kind of service. So we do have adults using that service. And then the in-home program, we are significantly underutilizing that service. And again, part of that is a staffing issue, and we need to definitely work on improving that. And the goal would be to utilize, again, all the slots that we have allotted to us where folks are potentially eligible for special assistance and so they can stay in their home. And I know Cynthia is working with the staff on that. I believe she's sitting back there if anybody has any questions about that. But that's an area we're trying to improve on.
Jan, I have two questions, and in the days, CAP MR, okay?
Yes.
Is CAP and CAP MR anywhere close to the same thing now?
CAP MR is probably being done through Trillium. Would you say that?
CAP MR is called Innovations Waiver now.
Right.
We've never had CAP MR.
What's the last word you said? Waiver.
Innovations Waiver.
Innovations Waiver is the new term for CAP MR.
Okay,
And that's not, we've never been involved with CAP MR.
okay.
It's always been a program through
The mental
Medicaid
health.
and
Right.
Services.
It's always been a mental
Okay.
health.
So CAP DA is the one that's referenced here, CAP disabled adults.
Right.
That's who we serve here.
And second question, adults utilizing in-home aid / respite, do you actually have facilities that DSS can use for these people to go to respite?
We have respite resources that we have contracts with. And again, Cynthia can talk more about that.
Cynthia,
These are
Cynthia,
Cynthia.
you want to come to the
so
microphone?
that people at home can hear you.
the respite funds that we get, that get allocated to us each year, are used for respite in the home. And what they do is they give a block of money to a family needing respite. That's a caregiver who's a full-time caregiver, and they need relief. So they're given a block of money for a period of time. A family that's trying to go on vacation or is having a health crisis is able to utilize that block of money. Usually that's why you see like 57 in a quarter and the next quarter 52, is because there's people, respite is a short-term, 2-3 month type of expectation to utilize that money.
And it's frequently an in-home services provider that the contract that gets used.
Right, it's
for
a
that. That's what I was
contracted
talking about.
provider. The program that uses institutional respite, you see that in CAP. CAP has availability. CAP is nursing home individuals. These are not typically nursing home individuals. Respite is a sitting type service, a caregiver in the home there to make sure that individual's safe while the routine caregiver leaves the home.
Is there any such facility like used to, I can't even remember the name of the place, but there was actually a facility which was run by the mental health center, which is another day, another subject and all those things, but you could actually take an adult, a disabled adult out of a home for a weekend and place that adult in the facility, and it was called respite.
There is, and it gets confusing because our respite is for disabled adults that are, it's not typically your developmentally delayed disabled adults. Those benefits come through Trillium, and they have what they call institutional respite, that you are able to actually place an individual in a facility setting. There's, we don't have one here in Pitt, but there are several that Pitt consumers utilize. And so they go and they stay. It's actually scheduled. You check in like a hotel, and you leave that adult there. That's usually your DD population. And those benefits are not part of what we're involved in, but they are still available. If people are needing that type of benefit for an individual who is just physically disabled, there is institutional respite through CAP, and that's where they'll put somebody in a nursing home. These are nursing home individuals, and it is covered as part of their CAP benefit. So they can utilize that, and they would stay in a nursing home while that family went on vacation or whatever the circumstance was. So it would be factored into their CAP budget. If it's an individual who was an assisted living level type benefit, there are programs through Mideast that has programs, and they do that temporary caregiver relief also.
I really appreciate that.
All right.
And this is funded through the Home and Community Care Block Grant. Is
Yes,
what-
this is our SSBG Home Community Care Block funds
That's how we fund this.
that we get allocated. So that's how you see numbers go up and down. The part that receives regular in-home services, that stays pretty steady, but you'll see, in the respite funds, that's where you see people go up and go back down, because it's temporary.
Thank you. When you look at our child welfare activities, you can, our goal obviously is that 95% of our children receiving services are not a repeat victim of a child abuse and neglect situation. We are at 86.9% at this point in the quarter. We continue to try and improve where we can, and continue to work on this. When you move into foster care, youth achieve permanent placement within 12 months. Our goal is 75.2%. We are currently at 63.3%, and that has been relatively stable over the last 2 quarters. The foster youth with only 1 or 2 placements in 12 months, the goal would be 86%. We are exceeding in that particular area with 91%, so our youth are being fairly stable at this point. And in fact, we are exceeding the state in that particular area. Our goal in foster youth, 1 or 2 placements within 12 to 24 months, the goal would be 65%. And again, we are at 80.4%, so stability is one of the things that we're feeling pretty good about. We obviously would like it to always be more stable. Once you get to the greater than 24 months, we are struggling there. The goal is 42%, which is an acknowledgement that that's much tougher. And we're at 31.9% at this point in time. So, continuing to work there. Our public communication plan didn't make any movement, and that is my fault. So I've been kind of busy doing other things lately, so that one didn't move forward. We have done a few things with the media, but not a significant amount as far as working on the plan itself. Objective 24, which was a records plan to achieve digitization, searchability, and timely disposal, that was completed and submitted to the state for approval. And y'all did review that plan. Our Northwood system in child support is 100% complete. They are loving it. There's still a glitch here and there, especially in the courthouse, because apparently you can't get on the internet in the basement of the courthouse. So we're going to have to figure a workaround on that. Because what they were hoping to do was take all of their documents in and fill in as they did the order so they could be signed and issued right there. And because the internet is fluctuates, it has not worked really well from that standpoint. So we're going to continue to work there. But thus far, it's done well. Okay, our time to fill vacant positions, because I know that's near and dear to all of our hearts, especially mine. The average number of days is decreasing. We were able to drop down. And if you think about it, that makes sense because we got so far behind because of the hurricane in October. So it's taken us a while to get caught back up. Well, I'm gonna go there. The minimum has been 38 days, so that's when the manager has allowed us to recruit before the 30-day wait period and the vacation time payout. The maximum has been 145 days, and that has typically been either we had trouble recruiting and so we had to post multiple times, or because we were doing a rewrite of the job description and it takes a while sometimes for the state to act on those.
Have we increased the pool of applicants at all? Coming from several different sources and,
In public assistance, the pool is extremely large. We have between 95 and 100, 120 applicants every time. In some of our clerical positions, the pool can be pretty good. In our child welfare, social work positions, our adult services, social work positions, the pool is small. It continues to be small. We are working on some ideas to try and make us more competitive with other counties. But again, you've got a lot of counties competing for the same individuals, and it is difficult to get quality staff and to keep quality staff.
How does our pay grade compare to other counties now in services?
We're not too far off. I will tell you that several of the counties around us are paying the same thing we're paying, which is they've caught up with us. I will say that a couple of counties are offering incentives to come, and that is one of the things that we might be exploring. Pay is an issue statewide, but some counties have recently done pay studies and things to address some of that.
Jane, could you talk a little bit about your relationship with the School of Social Work?
Right.
Being spring, a bunch of graduates coming out. Is that a pool that you typically look at, or can you look at that pool?
We can look at that pool. We do. We have 3 or 4 of our interns were from there this year.
Wonderful.
So we love to try and get those folks.
Are they interested?
Some of them are.
Good.
So we try to tap into that wherever we can. We also try to tap into other counties, obviously, where there has been some training and folks have already gone through all the required trainings that are necessary so they can come in right away. We also get some folks who are coming in from other states, moving to Pitt County for some reason, who have experience, but maybe not North Carolina experience, so they'd have to go through some of the training, but they have experience. We're getting more and more MSWs coming in, which is a real plus for us, because that's definitely who we want to hire is MSWs and VSWs. So we recruit from a variety of different places. I know Susan lists everywhere she can think of to list to try and be sure that we're picking up who we can pick up.
Yeah. There's probably at least 8 or 10 schools of social work and
Right.
graduate programs in the state
Right.
right now. There's going to be a lot of folk out there in the market.
Yeah, yeah.
Do we advertise in News and Observer?
We do not. That's pretty pricey. We go sometimes on the Child Welfare Collaborative site, or whatever that site's called now. We advertise with the employment security folks called Workforce Solutions now. We advertise certainly on the county website. We advertise in the Greenville paper. We advertise all kinds of places. The Child Welfare Collaborative website is a really good one because that kind of hits a lot of the schools of social work.
That's good.
But that's an ongoing problem that we continue to grapple with.
It's wonderful.
And then we had one, Cynthia had one in adult services, so that's why I said we had multiple interns this year. We
That's
actually
wonderful.
did one in adult services too, so we love it when we get the interns. Although that's a lot of work, because you gotta supervise them and all those kinds of
If
things.
they work out,
But if they work out, it's a great thing. And it's part of our mission. I mean, we've got to be growing the next generation of staff, and so that is part of our mission, to bring those students in and to work with them. Okay, and when you look at our revenue and expenses, and this obviously is in our administrative division, but if you look at that, we are right now, our revenue year-to-date is at 17.166, so we've gotten in 66%, which is right where we should be with 8 months of revenue coming in. And we have spent 73% of our budget, and at this point, you would expect 75%, so we're running, really on target with where we should be at this point, and not exceeding our budget to make the county and all of us happy.
and I have one question. If we could go back to slide number 23, in terms of those youth 12 to 24 months that are in foster placement.
Right.
And then we go over to slide 23. What happens between that period of time?
You mean when we go for, okay,
From
23,
22 to 23?
22 to 23 or 23 to 24?
So 23, where you're at 85.
80.4.
And then when you bump over to 23 and it drops down.
Yeah, when you go, I mean, the longer you're in care, the
Gotcha.
more likelihood you're going to have a move.
Gotcha.
Okay, so that's why the expectation clearly is when you first come into care, that first year you shouldn't be moving. And so very few moves should take place. And the further out you go, by the time you get to greater than 24 months, there's probably going to be more moves. The goal would be not to, but there's probably going to be more moves. And our goal, obviously, is to get the children out of care before 24 months has
24
arrived.
months.
You know, because we're basically focusing on permanency from day one. And so, other questions? I think for me, even though we don't always meet our targets, having the discussion on a regular basis keeps it in front of us and keeps us working and looking at what we need to do to improve. Okay.
So the next item on the agenda is Jan Elliott and her
I
director's
know,
report.
this is the Jan Elliott report this today. We're at 23 vacancies on this vacancy report. 2 folks have just started. We're recruiting 3 this week that are going out. We've made some offers. We're really excited that we've made an offer for our attorney to come in. So we will be replacing our missing attorney by the end of this month. So that's a great thing. So we're making progress.
And the county attorney helps with that process?
The county attorney, and basically it's our attorneys.
Right.
It runs by the county attorney, but basically it's our attorneys and the staff that work with that attorney or who are in the interview pool, do the interviewing for that.
Was it Tim that we lost?
We lost him. Yeah. Yeah. So we are sad, but we're excited about the new person. He comes with a child welfare background. Trying to remember all the wonderful things I heard about him. He has worked in a DSS before. He has worked in family law. They said he could actually recite the chapter on child welfare in the law books.
70.
Yeah.
Where will he be housed?
He will be housed in the office next to me, here in this building. So, yeah. So we're excited. We're excited. I think he's he's a veteran, if I remember correctly, also. So he's coming from Mecklenburg County, would you believe? So we're excited.
Good experience.
We're excited with him. Okay, legislative, let me do a couple quick things. I've already done the P3 conversion because we talked about that. The application processing report card, as I said, that was been pulled. The data's not good. They're going to redo them all, and they're not ready. So there's that. Okay, the legislative updates. You all have a resolution before you regarding the Family and Child Protection Accountability Act, but I can give you a couple of minutes of information before we even go there and you make that decision. I have notes. The bill has already, it is our understanding through the grapevine, because it is not official until the Senate budget has been reported out, but it's our understanding that the bill regarding the reorganization, which is the child welfare bill, is going to be folded into the Senate budget when it comes out today. And that means that when the Senate budget passes by the end of the week, it will be a done deal in the Senate. The House, however, is where we will need to go with all of our discussions to try and address this. Our association has met with Senator Behringer twice already, most recently on May the 8th. Representative Farmer Butterfield sat in on part of that last meeting. We offered a variety of options, including voluntary regionalization, pilots, a study, regionalizing the state staff like it used to be. None of that seemed to move her in any, to change anything. She is very much committed to regionalization and believes that that is going to help solve the problem. This is a handout that she provided to the legislature when she introduced her bill. And this gives you sort of a guide as to when things are supposed to move, and I put a copy of that for the county manager. There are a few discrepancies in this document and what's actually in the bill. In the bill, she talks about 30 regions. In this document, she talks 35 regions. Some of the dates seem a little strange. And she, in here, talks about the appeal rights in termination of parental rights. Here she says 75 days, in the bill she says 65 days. So we understand that there have been some amendments, but nobody has seen those amendments, so maybe some of that is covering some of this. But this kind of gives you a flow chart of what the plan is from her perspective. We understand that she's been working on this for several years and believes very strongly that this is the way to go. So, having said all that, we provided information to her that indicates that there's no evidence that size would improve outcomes. I'm hoping I kept a copy for myself. But basically, we have here some information from other states. We have some information around the Child and Family review that was done nationally with 22 states have already been through this review. And that's at the bottom when you see the CFSR comparison. North Carolina scored above the national average on 6 out of the 7 measurements, although North Carolina flunked miserably. So that gives you a sense as to the problems that folks are facing with this. It shows you how child welfare spending has changed in North Carolina, the funding in other states, and it gives you an idea of what's going on in foster care, since this is very much a foster care issue for her. There have been several other states that have talked about regionalization but have not pursued it for a variety of reasons. You know, and again, big does not necessarily mean that it's going to be better. In our conversations with her, we talked about the need for strong state leadership, that we need trained staff. You've got to have the mental health services. You've got to have the judicial system on board with court time and those kinds of things to make things work. She has said to us that all the suggestions we're making will be referred to a work group that is part of this bill. We understand that Duke Endowment is providing the $3.1 million that's referenced in this bill to design and reform our child welfare system, and that's to be done in 2018-19. We have asked to have more folks on the work group. She has indicated to us 2 to 4 counties per region, and that she's willing to look more at the how we do this, but accountability, she says counties are not performing. She did allow us to do a bill markup, which was to be presented to her this afternoon to make some minor changes or some changes. She did not agree to accept the changes, however. Again, as I said, we believe it's in the Senate budget bill at this point, so we believe, obviously, that we're going to have to address this in the House. We have also asked for a fiscal note, as there has been no fiscal note put with this, and there's a significant fiscal impact by doing this. On Thursday, our association will take a vote as to whether we're going to come out totally opposed to this bill or not. And, you know, I can say right now that I suspect, based on the conversations I've been hearing, we will not be supporting this bill. So the work is ahead of us in the House. And, you know, certainly there might be some situations where regionalization would be appropriate. There are some activities we could do from a regional standpoint. There might be some counties who want to merge and do some regional kinds of things. To make it mandatory feels, you know, a problem, is a problem for us. If you do it around court districts, which would make sense, because if you don't do it around court districts, it's going to be real messy, because our departments spend a lot of time in court, child support court, adult services court, child welfare court. If we're multiple court systems, it's just going to be really hard. And we're, of course, very concerned about the issues of all the local activities that are going on and all, and how those may be impacted through a regional process. So I have lived and breathed this bill for the last month. We're on conference calls 3 or 4 times a week. I was on Friday, Monday, today, you know, so it's a big bill, and it's a big issue, and it's very concerning while we're in the middle of a program improvement plan that has been put on us by the feds, in the middle of a strategic plan that the legislature asked for and received and accepted in child welfare, and the Directors Association put forward a roadmap for change in 2016, which part of has been incorporated. So, you know, there's a lot going on, and we're going to be implementing NC Fast in 2018 in child welfare. So you put all that together, it's going to be a difficult time. So we have suggested a resolution from this board that we would send to the legislature. And if you want me to, I can read that, or how do we want to go?
I've read it.
I've read it.
All y'all read it? Okay. So,
I move that we accept the resolution.
And I'll second that.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded, already signed,
okay.
assuming that we would get here. So it has been moved and seconded that we adopt the resolution of the Pitt County Board of Social Services. And is it a resolution of non-support for?
It's a resolution at this point that pretty much says that here are the things that need to change for us to support it, basically. So it's a resolution offering options, I guess is what I would call it.
Okay. I think the title could use some change so that we know if you ever had to look for it historically. Since it's not a resolution of support and it's not a resolution of rejection, it's.
Well, at this point, you know, what we are saying in here is support amendments and a study commission.
So what if we titled it Resolution Supporting Amendments to Senate
do that.
Bill 594, or,
Okay, we can do that.
so that way in searching minutes, people can find it. Or requesting amendments.
Okay.
Supporting one sounds like you support the way
Right,
it is.
okay.
Right.
Requesting amendments, okay.
Or resolution of support to request amendments. That way, you can see that we want you to make that step forward.
That makes sense.
Does
Yep.
that work for you and you, Carl? Okay, so then all those in favor of adopting this resolution that Jan can then take forward to her association and potentially even to the county commissioners to get their combined support, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Because I assume somewhere during budget workshops next week, you will bring that up as
I can do that. The legislature, the county commissioners are having their legislative day tomorrow
Okay,
in Raleigh, and this is an issue that is on the radar of their association
okay,
also.
so as long
and
as
so
we
they're
can get
already
the county
working.
commissioners behind it as well.
I can do that, minus that extra
Title
piece at the
change.
top, yeah, okay.
Okay, so,
Okay.
that takes care of that piece.
Okay. There are a couple other bills, just to make you aware, and I'll try and move fast, because I know we gotta get out of here, and we still need to talk about, the Making Proud Choices. There is a bill, House Bill 513, that is, changing the special assistance rates, and the county share, is $82.50 per resident per month, which for Pitt County is roughly $379,000 increase that has not been budgeted if this passes. So that is a bill that we are watching, and, trying to have some input on, but it is of concern out there. There is a House Bill 529 amending funeral laws, and when you read through that whole thing, it does say in there that it changes sort of the definition of an unclaimed body, if it's at the funeral home. And here's the way it reads. Let's see, where was it? All individuals who have expressed interest in arranging for disposition of the dead body have ceased communicating with the person in possession of the dead body for 5 days. At least 10 days have passed from the date of death, and the person in possession of the dead body has used reasonable efforts to contact all individuals interested in arranging for final disposition. That indicates to us, as we read this, that if a funeral home has a dead body, and then somebody walks away, and it has happened in one situation where the funeral had actually been held and the family walked away. We're very concerned about how this escalates the cost for disposal of unclaimed bodies for counties. Right now, we do have to deal with the unclaimed body. Again, that's one of Cynthia's lovely duties. And generally, nobody claims this body at all. So this idea that the funeral home can take the body and then do something with it can create some problems for us. In fact, it may even prevent us from being able to cremate, which is what we do, because if they've already begun embalming, that would impact the ability to cremate. So we are watching that closely. We understand that it didn't make crossover, but because there's money and stuff in there, it may still be alive. Another bill is Senate Bill 168, requiring our child care recipients to cooperate with child support in order to receive child support. Child care, that's only about 7% estimated of the population, so that's not a huge increase. But the next bill, which is Senate Bill 422, says that all of our food stamp recipients also must cooperate with child support, and that would be a much larger number that Michelle would be taking on for child support services. It also would potentially increase our workload in that it requires quarterly reviews of our food stamp recipients, doesn't allow categorical eligibility, etc. This one did not make crossover, but based on who is sponsoring it, we suspect it will reappear in a different place. The other bill that I want to make you aware of is Senate Bill 546, which is accuracy regarding Medicaid eligibility. It too did not make crossover, but again, because of the folks who introduced it, we suspect it will remain. And this one speaks to if we make an error, and it's got a lot of other stuff in it, but if we make an error in eligibility, they're expecting the county to pick up the cost of the federal and state share of the bill that particular Medicaid patient may have incurred that was paid incorrectly. Well-trained, competent, adequately staffed are all going to be really important to make these things happen. So we're paying real close attention to all those bills and trying to give input where we can. So I'm assuming no one had questions about the director's report. We have a shout out in child support. One of our staff, Veronica Bradford, collected $11,665.77. Pitt County DSS got a silver certificate from the Department of Labor because of our good works as far as lost time accidents and injuries. Safety, that's right.
5%.
Remember that next year.
5%.
Remember that next year.
I got that.
Okay. We included the annual evaluation because it's time for y'all to be thinking about that, so there's the form for you to do that with. Was there anything else I needed to?
And while we're on that, if everybody would give me their thoughts, what we typically do is then put everybody's scores across a spreadsheet and come up with a 5-person average, and that's what we present to Jan.
So this is due when, Melanie?
If we can just have it by the next meeting, that would be great.
Just hand it to you.
I have the template set up to do the averaging.
May 18th at 9 o'clock is when we go to the commissioners to talk about our budget. I understand we may be having to defend our budget greatly. There's a rumor. Okay, so making proud choices. If I understand correctly, what I'm to do is kind of tell you where we are going forward as a group. Is that what you want?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So where we are at this point, we are continuing our training in this program, since that is who is funding our work in this program. We have, talked about all the things we're going to do as far as working with the parents, the foster parents, all those kinds of things. Come July 1, when we have ability to purchase again, we will be adding the additional curriculum that we have talked about before, which is
Love choices?
Love
Notes.
Notes. Love Notes. My brain is beginning to fry. We will not begin actually training or working with our kids until sometime in June, early July. And again, we're working with the 16 to 20-year-olds as it relates to making proud choices. So that's kind of where I am at this point. Moving forward, we've talked some more about the curriculum, and Ms. Wichard's going to get me that curriculum so that I can review it. But at this point, we are continuing to move forward.
My understanding from the last meeting was that the love notes could be substituted in place of the making proud choices. And I know we don't have that yet, so is it imperative that we start this training? Speaking as an educator, it seems to me that it would be much better if we could wait and then not switch midstream.
And, my thought on that would be that there would be some situations where love notes would be probably more appropriate. There would be some situations that probably making proud choices would be more appropriate. We will definitely be starting with our children who are most at risk based on their behaviors at this point in time. And in that situation, making proud choices would be the one that I would certainly want to start with. By then, because it is is multiple sessions required for this, so it's not something you would do, very, very quickly. And by then, we will have the other curriculum and be able to look at it and see where that takes us, and if that's more appropriate and where that might best be used.
I have a continuing concern based on the research. I've done some pretty extensive research about this approach, and I continue to have this reservations and concern for these teenagers who are so vulnerable at this point. And it seems that an approach based, a more complete approach where it's not just physical and then contraceptives, but you bring in the whole gamut of the relationship and future ramifications, those kinds of things would be worth considering before getting very far into a curriculum.
And, as you and I had talked, reviewing the curriculum is not the same as actually sitting in and doing the training, because as you work through this, relationships are part of the discussion, making good decisions is part of the discussion, looking at where you want to be in the future is part of the discussion. It does heavily talk about preventing STDs and those kinds of things, but all those other pieces are part of the discussion. It's more than just watching the video and going home. I mean,
I've read it.
Right,
You know,
right.
I've gone through the lessons, I've seen the DVDs, I've seen the worksheets, and I pointed out in private meeting, you know, there were one or two things that I thought were strong in that. But overall, I continue to be greatly concerned about this approach compared to the sexual reduction avoidance approach, which it's a lot more balanced, and it keeps the children, you know, it's not just pregnancy that we need to be concerned about. It needs to be the idea of this STDs that the contraceptives of whatever kind don't always cover. And that's my concern for these kids.
Right.
And that they build these ideas of relationship, not just with other people, but with yourself. And if there's anybody that needs that, it's these foster kids. So that's where I'm coming from. I want to protect the department and the children from future ramifications of whatever we decide to do.
Well, and at this point, I want to make a statement, because this has simmered and festered and bubbled up. As the chair of this board, it is my belief that this director and her staff know these children and what these children need better than any of the 5 members of this board. I think we are overstepping our bounds if we try to tell them how to do their jobs and what curriculums they should import. So I would make a motion at this point, and if I get a second, that's great, that we allow Jan to move forward with her plan, because she is the expert. Her staff are the expert. Please take into mind our concerns and those concerns that have been exhibited or illustrated and provided to you, but you all are the experts. And you deserve our support, because you are working with a population day in and day out that we don't always see and we aren't always aware of. So I just want to make a motion to support Jan and her staff in moving forward, working with these children in this program.
And I second it.
And I certainly want to say, in no way have my comments have all been targeted on the materials. Nobody has higher respect for the staff than I have shown. I've gone out of my way to try to be a present and active and full of praise whenever we have a meeting. If there's anything that I can do to say to put the staff at the forefront, it's been me. But I'm also a retired teacher with 20-plus years experience. I've had a great deal of time working with curriculums, putting them into practice, working with children from all levels of economic society and backgrounds. And in the book, I brought our handbook, and in referring to that, I have every responsibility to, if I find background information that can help this board, it's my duty and my responsibility not to be derelict in that action. And so that's where I'm coming from. It's in no way indicative of any kind of criticism against any staff. My concern is with the curriculum.
And I think we can voice that concern, but my motion is to allow Jan to move forward with the program. This board accepted a grant to fund. This board has challenged staff to implement and do the right way, knowing the children that are in your custody and knowing what works for them and with them. So does your second still stand?
Yes, it does.
Then in that case, all those in favor of said motion, let it be known by saying aye.
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 Aye. Those opposed?
Aye.
Sorry, that was my son. The next item on the agenda is board member comments. Jim?
Well, I was in Raleigh the last 2 days at a conference, and just coming back into town this afternoon, and it was the North Carolina Coalition to End Homelessness, and so it was very well attended. It was a good conference, and one of my takeaways, I thought this was had a lot of meaning for me. One of the speakers was talking generally about poverty and certainly the impact of poverty, but that poverty didn't go hand in hand with homelessness. I thought that was just kind of a very thoughtful statement. We're always going to have poverty, but that doesn't mean that we will always need to have homelessness. And speaks to affordable housing and all of those associated issues. So anyway, I just bring that pearl back to the group. So.
How many homeless do we have in Pitt County, just ballpark, Mr. Jim?
Well, we do a point-in-time count every January, and we measure not only people that are in shelter, but also people that we can identify on the street. And I think, I think this year in terms of in shelter, I think we identified maybe around 85 or 90 people that were in shelter that night, which means we're at community crossroads or a domestic violence shelter. And then we do a street count or outreach into our soup kitchens and things like that. And I think this year we identified, I think we counted about 17 or 18 unsheltered individuals. So again, that is just a snapshot.
How does that compare to prior years? Any idea?
Well, I can tell you that I think probably our sheltered were pretty consistent. Our unsheltered this year actually went up. And I think part of that is that we had a couple new partner agencies this year that came on board in terms of our count and helped us identify and work with us around that. So the
folks could have been there and we just weren't aware
Correct,
of it because
correct.
we didn't.
So that you got to figure that's just a snapshot. And if I would, I think that in some sense is probably scratching the surface, in terms of things. So, but anyway, this was the governor did the keynote. I mean, not the keynote, but kicked off the conference, which was very nice. And so there was a lot of knowledge and a lot of thought and some things that I feel that we can implement as a community. So it was good. It was good, energizing. So.
I'm sorry I missed the foster children's banquet. And it was so nice to be invited, and I hope they'll give me a rain check and let me come again, because it's always a good time, and it's just inspiring to see how these foster parents with the caseworkers step up for these kids that need advocates.
And how many parents did you have come to the event?
We probably had 30 to 40 parents there. These were the folks that are either currently foster parents or at the point of going through MAP classes because they were about to graduate, and a few were just transitioning into adoption and guardianship situations with the children they had. So probably that many.
I spoke with your speaker.
Yes, she had a good time.
Who was very awed by the growth that the foster care unit has made.
They've done great.
Comments? Becky?
Nope.
Anything else? So with that, our next meeting is June the 13th in this location, Susan. We're up here. And again, Jan said May 18th at 9 a.m. in this location to present her budget during the county commissioners' budget workshops.
And I'm right behind the health department, so we'll be a little after 9, but sometimes it won't be much after 9.
Okay.
So if any of you all wish to attend.
And with that, anything else before we have a motion to adjourn?
If anybody has anything for the next agenda, let me know.
I move that we adjourn.
And I second.
All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Packing up. Thank you.
Thank you.